Okay, friends, last time we actually studied about the restoring immune system and how it is connected to intestine. And you remember the four factors, the four strategies which we were talking about, yes, to address the four major problems which drive any autoimmune disease, allergic disease, any kind of disease of problems of immune system. The four problems were dysbiosis or dysbacteriosis, if you want, which is impaired microbiome, meaning that all those bacteria which live inside intestine wrong way, not the ones which we need. Dysbiosis. Another one in inflammation inside intestine. That's where we talk the inflammations, the problem of immune system start, where the immune cells mostly are, 70% of immune cells of our body are in the wall of intestine, so local inflammation. Then was what? Leaky gut, the impaired wall, the epithelium of inside intestine, which allows abnormal absorption of things which should not go into the blood. Leaky gut, and then the next one is lazy gut, which means impaired, wrong motility of intestine. It's too lazy, too slow, and those four factors, DILL, we were telling like DIL abbreviation, they are the major driver of problems of immune system. The strategies which are addressing them are actually the system which I usually call like 4+1 R letter, and that's why. Like first, first R is repopulate, and it's about dysbiosis with the bacteria. You need to repopulate your intestine with the correct kind of bacteria. Next one, it is reduce, and it's reduce inflammation inside intestine. The third one is a repair, and it's about repairing the leaky gut, the broken wall. You need to repair it, and the fourth one is ruse, which is like activate, yes, ruse, motility, the motility of intestine, so that it will work in normal tonus and in normal speed. So those four R's, which we just taught, and then they actually lead to restoring of immune system, after which you can reintroduce many things which you removed from your life while you were in active healing process. Because, and we'll study today with one of those strategies, but you will notice that during the healing, that active healing process, you need to remove from your diet certain things which are actually good, but right now in your restoration period, while you are healing, you should stay away from it temporarily. But when you fix everything, you can reintroduce them back. And just going slightly ahead, one of those things can be nuts. NUT, nuts, because you may have allergic, many people actually have allergic reaction to nuts, and that allergic reactions to nuts are related to abnormal microbiome and the inflammation inside the intestine and the leaky gut, all those problems. But once you fix it, bon appetit. It's excellent thing, it's excellent source of protein, fat, micronutrients, etc. So that's one of example. So we have those 4R strategy of repopulate, reduce, repair, ruse, and then you can reintroduce what you missed during the active healing process. That process may take several months. I know people for whom it took like several years even, because they had autoimmune diseases for decades. So the longer you have autoimmune disease, the longer it takes the restoration, the healing. But just like with everything, yeah, like with sports, you need to be consistent. Even if you are moving slowly, just be consistent. You will be there. Okay, so we will, every meeting probably, we will touch one of those strategies, which we told, those 4 R's, but except for the first one, the repopulating your intestine with good microbiome, it's actually a very big topic. That's why I do not start with it. That will be later. We're about microbiome, dysbacteriosis, repopulating will start later. Now we start with the second one, which is reducing inflammation. Yes, Lee?
So you're just going to time the discussion in that order, or is that the order you should try to make changes in your life?
Thank you, good question. Do you remember we talked that you need to address all 4 enemies in parallel? It's not sequential. You go in parallel. You need all 4 front lines. So all four things should work in parallel. If you try to move one, others leaving behind, they will pull you back. Your result will be very temporary.
But the idea then about eating nuts, for example, if you were allergic or sensitive to nuts, you would want to have some improvement before you introduce the nuts?
Exactly. You have to address all four strategies which we talked. You restore your healthy intestine, healthy microbiome, healthy immune system. After that, you are safe to reintroduce nuts back into your diet. Because, yeah, unfortunately, many people, I have pity with that people who cannot eat nuts. It's a beautiful thing, it's very delicious, it's very nutritious, it's very healthy, but people cannot eat it because of allergic reaction to it. And those allergic reactions to certain kinds of food happen because of leaky gut, dysbacteriosis, etc. They should be fixed. Then the allergy will be fixed. So we talked about diseases of immune system or issues of immune system don't manifest only like autoimmune diseases, allergies we just mentioned. Another thing, well, exhaustion of immune system may lead to person being more vulnerable to infections. And also we talk that it elevates the risk of oncological cancer diseases because cancer cells do happen in our bodies, mutations and random things, they do happen, but our healthy immune system quickly suppresses and exterminates those mutants in our body when they happen. That is an exhausted immune system which cannot handle it, and that's why cancer has an opportunity to catch up and grow. Now, we talk that 70% of immune cells of our body are inside the intestine. And unfortunately, with our modern lifestyle, too many people have chronic inflammation inside the intestine. Let us touch it. Why even there's so many immune cells of our body, why so much of immune system in the wall of our intestine? After that, like intestine somewhere inside, yes, like we should probably have it more on skin, yes, like why inside the intestine? If you think, like your intestine is pretty dirty place, yes, and the surface of intestine inside is much bigger than surface of your body on surface, because intestine is very convoluted and it has some villi which are like a hair, like they're not hair, they consist of certain cells which absorb the food and nutrients, and those convolution of intestine, etc., add up to a surface which, according to different calculations of different principle of calculation, between 150 to 400 square meters, which means between 2,000 square feet to 4,000 square feet. So your intestine inside has a surface area bigger than your house, probably, unless you are a very rich guy with house more than 4,000 square feet. So that is a very big surface, and that is actually covered with just not with a very tough tissue like skin, which is really very tough, but it is covered just with one layer of very vulnerable cells. So imagine how strong should be immune system there to not allow all those toxins, bacteria, viruses, etc. to enter into your body through huge gateway of that surface area of your intestine. So lots of work to do. Lots of work to do, that's normal, immune cells are there, but they should not be in constant inflammation process. They should be like monitoring of, you saw like when there is some protests or some meetings going, like demonstration in the street, and the police on site, yes? They're working and they're monitoring so that they behave well, right? That's how those immune cells actually act. But when things get out of control, those immune cells get into constant battle. And that's, if it happens for a couple hours, not a big deal. But if it happens for days, weeks, and months non-stop, that is a way to disaster for your body. Wait a minute, you can ask, like, isn't it good for any organ of our body to have training, like exercise? Yes, we know that muscles, brain, like every, like heart, like you have some exercise, some activity, it gets stronger. Isn't it the same with the immune system? It is, but there is a key thing that the stress, that exercise should not be continuous for long term, but it should interrupt these periods of restoration. Example, what about rowboat? You go paddling on a boat or kayak, that is cool. You have it for a couple hours, you enjoy it. But do you know that in ancient times when there were slaves chained to oars to work on galleys and rowing those galleys from morning till evening, they usually did not last for longer than 3 years. They will die from exhaustion. The number of years would vary depending on how well they were treated, but pretty much, yes, it was on average 3 years. Could be slightly less, slightly more, but they will die out of exhaustion. The same happens with our immune cells when the flow of toxins and wrong bacteria, and we'll touch it when we speak about dysbacteriosis and how to repopulate. But in toxins, we talk now today about certain kinds of food. When it leads to elevated inflammation, if it continues non-stop, it exhausts the immune system. And that exhausted immune system really signals to your body in certain kinds of diseases, and many various kinds of those diseases. So, taking that into account, we can come to now what is the result of it, that increased inflammation in our intestine. First of all, if it is inflamed, the wall of intestine, it has nerve cells which are responsible for normal motility, the movement of intestine, the peristaltic movement, which you all definitely know that it happens, and we feel big problems if it doesn't happen properly. Yeah, it depends on those nerve cells inside the wall of intestine. When there is chronic inflammation, and notice, a chronic inflammation may be unnoticed by you. You may live with it, you don't have any diseases. There is some chronic, very small inflammation happening already, you don't know about it, because you do not have really any disease, any complaint. Your organism may be still strong, not broken yet. It may take several more years for it to break. That's why people often get autoimmune diseases when they get older. Well, the problem could start when they were young, but the body is still strong and you don't notice it. You think that it's okay. Then when you're 50, suddenly your joints get inflamed, your body, you cannot move well, etc. Or you get some other kinds of disease or allergies. So it can start asymptomatically without any symptoms on the surface. One of things which it actually does impair the motility of intestine, because inflamed the wall of intestine, those nerve cells which should work for normal movement of intestine, they get involved into inflammation and they do not function properly, and that's where the lazy gut, it can be one of factors of the lazy gut. On another side, we understand that inflamed intestine, the inflammation process will damage the epithelium, and damaged epithelium, that is a leaky gut problem, which we discussed. And on another side, it is known that certain kind of bacteria, which are pathogenic bacteria, they multiply better when there is a chronic inflammation leading to exhaustion of immune system of intestine. The pathogenic bacteria may multiply better and suppress the friendly bacterial flora. So that's how the abnormal chronic inflammation inside intestine may lead to other three problems: dysbiosis, leaky gut, and lazy gut. They are all connected, we were telling, and that's how inflammation in intestine leads to other three problems. Now, regarding the reducing the inflammation, it's really mostly connected to the food we eat. And today I will actually talk about those kinds of food and pretty much what to eat, what not to eat, or at least to reduce. And the key here, like, it may sound weird to many of you. I was just speaking to one sister, and I told that I like the phrase, like, love the food which loves you back. Okay? Like, not every food you may like loves you back. Some of them is damaging. So the key here is about changing your attitude and probably your perception of taste. Like, what is delicious, what is not delicious, happens inside our brain. Yes, it doesn't really happen even on tongue. It happens inside our brain. Several categories of food. We'll now discuss about oils, about carbohydrates, about sources of proteins, mostly animal protein. We will discuss about some specific allergic reactions. There are certain kinds of food which are not usually inflammational, but many people may have reaction to them. We'll discuss that. After that, I'll add also about certain kinds of food and herbs which are anti-inflammatory, meaning that you consuming them actually reduce inflammation just by effect of those plants. They're mostly plant-based. And after that, if we have time, I will touch the concept of elimination diet. Before we jump into this, is a big block, as you see. One more thing, besides intestine, on your immune system does affect inflammation, chronic, probably invisible inflammation, which may happen in the mouth, mostly teeth and gums. And when I coach people with autoimmune diseases, that's one of the first things which, because it's kind of on the surface, it's easy. It's not like easy, but it's very fast to check and fix. Health of teeth and gums. Pockets, which are the teeth, they're growing in gums pretty much. There are pockets around them, and food may get stuck there. So if the pockets are too deep, it always happens. It's very important not to just get it cleansed, but to by dentistry procedures, but to have it actively brushed after every meal if you have those pockets, because that is constant source of inflammation inside your body in gums. So cleansing by brushing, even toothpaste is even not that important. Most important is the mechanical cleansing of it. Toothpaste probably adds like several percent difference, but like 90-something% is the mechanical removing of the dirt from pockets. Yes, Lee?
What's happening then when the teeth and the gum to cause a systemic inflammation? Are you swallowing some of the product, or is it getting your bloodstream, or how could that affect your whole body?
Swallowing is a minor thing. More it is about there is inflammation, and so definitely the immune cells coming and battling that inflammation. So you have constant inflammation process, constant battle between your immune cell and bad bacteria multiplying on that dirt. Constantly, that affects your immune cells. So also that exhaustion or bad reaction of immune cells. So that inflammation in gums, it happens.
It could be symptom-free, though. You might have no pain at all in your teeth or your mouth. Or is it usually? It
can be. If it is very small, you may not pay attention to it, but your dentist definitely will notice it and tell you about that. If it's very small, it's easier also to treat. If pockets are small, starting it early, you may even revert or improve the condition of those pockets. If it went too far, probably you need more of manipulation by your dentist. But the point is to remove that chronic inflammation process from your mouth, because that is really detrimental for health. It is well known. Or inflamed teeth, etc. So to fix that problem, and one of other things which I can advise, besides brushing after every meal, which is a very good thing to keep it clean, in order to prevent pathogenic bacterial growth inside your mouth, there are two kinds of spices which are very well known to suppress pathogenic bacterial growth, which can be used by you just like after you ate and brushed your teeth, either cloves or cardamom. Cloves, yeah, you know those spices, cloves or cardamom. So you just take a couple of them and hold in your mouth, chewing, and allow the atmosphere inside your mouth to get of those essential oils, of those either this or that. You can alternate it, doesn't matter. Both of them work. You can pick whichever you prefer. You can change it from time to time, as I do. So it actually improves not only the smell of your breath, it improves the condition of bacterial flora and gums health, etc. Yes, sister.
Years ago, they used to say, like, if you have a little toothache, have some cloves, it'll kind of numb it.
Kind of what?
Like if you're having a little bit of a toothache, you could take cloves and it'll kind of numb it.
Yeah, but numbing is one thing. Numbing is about not just feeling it, but we talk about not about our feeling, but about the control of what pathogenic bacteria inside our mouth. That's but numbing, is one of the factors. Okay, now let us jump into so-called like eat this, not that, right? About oils and fats, it's pretty easy. Our supermarkets are full of products, grocery, which contains trans fats. You know what is that, yes? Trans fats are pretty much oils, vegetable oils, which are treated under high temperature with hydrogen. So they get that additional hydrogen on their molecules to become hard. So they were previously just liquid, they become hardened, so they are used instead of butter, or they can be added to many cooked food if you buy cooked food. So trans fats are well known cancerogenic, and not all of them cancerogenic, many of them cancerogenic, but almost all of those trans fats, they are well known to increase inflammation inside the intestine. Hydrogenated vegetable oils, pretty much related. Other names are margarine, shortening. Lard is also one of products which is very inflammatory. And deep fried foods, even if they are deep fried on just vegetable oil, the problem is that almost all vegetable oils, especially the cheap ones which are used for prepared deep fried things, when they are treated with high temperature for a long period of time. Did you see how they cook in McDonald's or somewhere? Like they use the same oil from morning till evening. It's under high temperature there. So oil under high temperature for a long period of time denaturates. Many molecules which are created in it are cancerogenic, are inflammatory. Stay away from it.
So I shouldn't go to the state fair?
What is that?
That's where I only go to eat deep fried food.
They must.
You see, I don't even know the name. Well, alternatives.
Avoid trans fats. Never eat.
Yeah, try not. I mean, like it's not nuclear bomb. If you ate it once here or after, like it may happen. I mean, if I will be really, really starving and you put that stuff in front of me, if it is biblically clean, I will eat it. But I would try not. I would try to avoid it. I would try to have something else. Well, alternative in terms of fats and oils, alternatives. Vegetable oils in general are quite good, but I know when I talk about alternative, let me tell you about the best thing, which have a strong anti-inflammatory effect, yes, because there are many oils which are good, but specifically reducing inflammation is known olive oil. Is that specifically reduces inflammation. Another flaxseed oil, or linen or flaxseed oil, that reduces inflammation. Avocado. Well, whole avocado is pretty much oil, yes, or avocado oil if you get it. Yeah, it's also well known to reduce inflammation. And fish, or fish oil, and definitely fish contains fish oil. Yeah, that is also well known to reduce inflammation. So those sources of fat and oils are good for your body, the best. There are some others which are in the middle. So I told the worst and I tell the best. There are many others in the middle. Okay. Carbohydrates. Are you ready? The cold hard truth, Fusion. Sugar. That is the worst. Yes, that increases inflammation. That creates havoc inside intestine in terms of microbiome inflammation, and that is one of the main drivers of allergic diseases of the kind. Sugar, refined carbs of all kinds. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I just want to pause you there, because you said early on at the very beginning, more than anything, it's about attitude.
Yes.
So if you've been addicted to sugar or anything else on your do not use list, what tips can you give, because of your own experience, that can help our attitude and mindset?
Great. I will tell it. Now, when I go through the list of worst and best carbohydrates, then I will tell tips about what to replace. Okay, with fat it was easy, yes, because like nobody will suffer from replacing margarine with olive oil. Yes, like nobody really likes trans fats. Olive oil is more delicious. Or avocados are delicious, and unless you are my elder son who doesn't like avocados. So with fats, oil is easy. With carbohydrates, it's more tricky. Let me tell it. So first, let us tell what is the worst. Sugars, refined carbs of all kinds. Unfortunately, in America, because corn is so cheap, they put this corn syrup into everything. And yeah, so pay attention what you buy. Synthetic sweeteners, almost of all kinds. Synthetic sweeteners are either molecules which do not exist at all in the nature, or sometimes like stevia, we just discussed with one sister. Stevia, it does exist in the nature, it is in certain kind of plants, but it's not normal ingredients of human food. And synthetic sweeteners are also better to avoid, again, for the reason that the root is in our preferences, and we should start changing our preferences. It's not about like this is sweet so it is delicious. No, deliciousness is not only about sweet, it's the richness of food flavors. Refined flour, guys, it is interesting. If you would see flour which your ancestors, my ancestors, used 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, if we would see bread which they ate and named bread 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, we probably would not even recognize it, or we would be like, oh, it is so strange. It was very different with what we name bread now, especially here in Western world, because now this bread in Western world is bleached, highly refined flour, meaning everything besides starch is removed from it. It's also bleached, it's purely white like snow, and the bread looks like a white sponge. Like, it's not normal bread. Normal bread was just crushed grain and then mixed with water and baked. It was very different. It didn't rise, it wasn't like sponge, it was kind of hard, and it had much more variety of nutrients in it. Right now, this bread is purely starch with some synthetic additives to it, that's all. So refined flour is bleached flour, it is kind of already a processed food, and it's mostly starch, and so if we eat bread, it's better to eat a whole grain, and better to eat not yeast, unleavened, without yeast, which pretty much boils down to Middle Eastern flat bread of some kind. Products with gluten, that's another thing. Not everybody has a bad reaction to gluten. What is gluten? Gluten is a certain kind of protein which is mostly found in wheat. It is found in smaller quantity in some other grain, some in barley, some, though we don't usually eat that much barley. But rye and wheat are the highest in gluten probably. So gluten is a protein, and the problem with gluten, and we will discuss it in our probably next meeting about leaky gut, the gluten damages the epithelium slightly. But it does create slight damage to the epithelium. So the problem comes when you repeat it again and again and again often. If you eat it one time in a while, it's not a big deal. But if it happens constantly, that damage leads to more inflammation inside your intestine. So gluten should be avoided by people who have those problems after you have restored your microbiome. Actually, your friendly bacteria will help you with digesting gluten in a safe way. And your intestine will be strong enough to handle it. But if you have problems, that gluten should be avoided. And again, it comes mostly to wheat, rye. Some grains do not contain gluten at all. Rice doesn't contain gluten. Buckwheat, by the way, buckwheat, extremely healthy grain, but not very usual in Western world. In America, not very usual. Buckwheat is very short on gluten, meaning very small quantity of gluten in it.
So when you mention rice, is that white rice and brown rice?
Yeah, any rice just doesn't produce gluten molecules in general.
Do you have other issues, or is rice on the good carbohydrate list?
Relatively okay. It is relatively okay. On another side, probably, again, we'll talk about microbiome later, but in order to correct microbiome, you better to reduce amount of starch which you eat. Yeah, but if we talk about inflammation part, yes, rice is much better than wheat because it doesn't contain gluten.
But you said generally reduce starches.
Reducing starch is better for controlling microbiome, and but again, reducing doesn't mean that it's zero. And we would come now to the best alternative, even in terms of carbohydrates. Well, I probably don't need to tell it to Adventists, but in general, alcohol is also very inflammatory for intestine, so better to avoid alcohol also. And most of artificial additives and preservatives which are in food also create increased inflammation inside the intestine, also something to avoid. Best alternative now regarding carbohydrates, not surprisingly, it is vegetables and fruits of different kinds. Vegetables and fruits work very differently, mostly because all carbohydrates there come in composition with fiber, and fiber regulates how they are processed inside the intestine by bacteria and how it is absorbed. So I will tell that that's even how God originally created us to consume sugar. If we think like the only source of sugar in normal food are fruits, and in fruits all sugar comes with lots of fiber always. That's how it's supposed to be. Greens and herbs, so vegetables, fruits, greens and herbs are all good source of carbohydrates. And one category of starch which is called resistant starch. These are starch molecules which are like in bigger molecules and bigger granules which are not digested well in small intestine, and they come under-digested into big intestine, into colon, actually feeding certain bacteria inside colon, but they do not allow bacterial growth inside small intestine, which helps with inflammatory bowel syndrome, for example. And those resistant starches, interestingly, they often get destroyed by cooking process, because the cooking process breaks down those big molecules or big granules and make it easier to digest. But resistant starch, the whole idea is that it's not that easy to digest, and it is mostly processed by certain kinds of bacteria, and those bacteria inside our intestine, where they process that resistant starch also, it is partially digested by us, but also by that bacteria which processing it synthesizes short-circuit fat acids. Why those fat acids are important? Because those fat acids are source of energy for epithelium of our intestine. So that is important for health of intestine. So the resistant starch gets, when you cook products which have it, mostly is destroyed. That's why one of main sources in our diet of resistant starch, which are oats, it is healthier, interestingly, to eat not in British American kind of oatmeal where you cook it with hot water, but in Swiss way, where what they call muesli, which they just pour something on it so that it soaks, but they do not cook, it stays raw. It's a rolled or steel cut oats, so not heated, not cooked, but they can be just soaked in whatever you use, so coconut milk or yogurt or anything, and adding something else in addition to that, some dried fruits and nuts or whatever you want. So that is called muesli. So the point is that when oats are raw, they contain significant amount of resistant starch, which is good for your intestine. Where they are cooked, like less than 10% of stays of what used to be. Barley, the same story. And barley muesli also actually can be found. They are also usually steel cut, just like with oats. Another source of resistant starch can be green bananas. And I'm not a big fan of green bananas, but unlike very ripe bananas, green bananas contain healthy resistant starch, more of resistant starch.
Something good going for me.
Okay. Plantains also, yes. And another thing are beans, lentils, chickpeas. Those legumes, they have good combination of resistant starch and fiber and protein. So these can be good replacement for many carbohydrates in your food if you want. Replacing with lentils, beans, and chickpeas can be helpful. That is with carbohydrates. Yes.
You're going to talk about potatoes, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, as long as you're not...
I omitted it because it's not in the worst group, it's not in the best group. It's somewhere in the middle. Oh. Regarding potato, I can also add that if you are interested in resistant starch, it was found that just cooked potato is very low, almost zero of resistant starch. But if you leave it to cool down, when it gets cold, the molecules of starch restructure into bigger granules, and it significantly increases the concentration of resistant starch in potato when it is cooled after it has been cooked. Yes. Now the question which brother was asking about what to do, I like something sweet, right? Like pretty much, right? And yeah, we don't even need to completely abstain from sweet if we can find something which is sweet and still healthy. And one of the most convenient ingredients which you can add to your food are dried fruits. Unlike fresh fruits, which you always need to have fresh because they do not stay for a long time, yes? And dried fruits, they are concentrated. First of all, they are very concentrated sweet, they are very sweet, and there's a huge variety of them. Raisins, dried apricots, dried mango, dried peaches, dried pears, dried apples, like so many of them, like dried pineapples. Just important, buying them, pay attention that they are unsweetened. Why? Because often producers, they do not dry them well enough so that they retain more of moisture, so that probably some people don't like it hard, they like it soft. On another side, they do not dry them well enough so that it has bigger mass, so they can be sold for more, but so that it doesn't spoil, they add sugar or some preservatives. So as we already found, we should avoid sugar, and sweeten it. And you can always find it. It is being sold online or in stores. Unsweetened dried fruits, huge variety of them, variety of tastes can be added to food, different combinations, etc. So sweets. Yeah. Your question? All right. Yes.
Coconut, is that a good food?
Yeah, we didn't come to sources of protein pretty much, but coconut, just like all other nuts, is a good source, unless you have allergic reaction to it, it is a good source. With animal, now another big group is animal proteins, right? Because we often not everybody is vegan, not everybody needs to be vegan, but not all sources of animal proteins are equally good or bad. The worst things are, and now I go through the list. By the way, you can always open your handout material, it's all listed there. So the worst are shellfish. Again, we are here following biblical rules of what is clean and what is unclean food. Shellfish we don't eat, but just for you to know, because probably there's somebody else who doesn't follow biblical regulations, shellfish is, even biblical regulation aside, is a very inflammatory food. It's not good. Red meat, mostly beef and pork. Again, we don't eat pork, but pork also. It is highly inflammatory food. There is a well-found connection between consumption of red meat and colon cancer, for example. Yeah, especially with beef and pork, the red meat, because there is other kinds of meat to which I will touch later. Processed meat of all kinds. Processed meat, again, stay away from all kinds of processed food. Processed food is not good. Grain-fed meat. Now, here's the point. The same animals, kind of animals, if it is fed grass, its meat is much healthier than when it is fed corn. Grain. Corn, grain-fed meat, it's highly inflammatory. The same actually comes to fish. Lots of farmed fish is fed with corn in America because, again, corn is quite cheap and they feed it. So the salmon, the same salmon, if it is wild salmon or if it is farmed salmon fed with corn, that's the latter will increase the inflammation process in the intestine, unlike the former one, the wild salmon. So cow milk products, for most people, they do, not for everybody, but for most people, it does cause inflammatory processes in dairy of all kinds, which has any antibiotics and hormones. It's also understandable. Antibiotics which are fed mostly to cows, as far as I know, it's fed, allows them to grow bigger, to give more either milk or other products, but those antibiotics, it is found in milk, it is found in meat, and if you consume it, you consume that antibiotic also in very small quantity. But what does it cause to bacteria inside your intestine? You start feeding it with antibiotics. Some bacteria, usually friendly one, is more fragile. They collapse, and usually the pathogenic ones, they are more weak and they do not care about antibiotics, and they multiply. Because you collapse by the antibiotic, the friendly one, so you remove the competitor and the other ones multiply. It's like, you know, the worst infection which happens to people, that is a hospital infection. The bacteria which live in hospital, why? Because there's so many antibiotics and cleansing and sterilization processes happening in hospital that all the fragile and not so weak bacteria, they are eliminated, and the most weak ones multiply, the most aggressive ones multiply. That's why the worst infection is a hospital infection. And for many people, eggs are also inflammatory. Again, your mileage may vary. So for some people, yes. For some people, no. You may find it out by experimenting with your diet. The eggs can be inflammatory.
People are allergic to eggs, or some not allergic, but getting
With eggs?
Eggs? Or are they okay for most people?
What's the question?
Eggs, are they good for most people and just a small percentage of people get inflamed?
I don't know exact statistics. I know that many people are allergic. I don't know more than half or less than half. I don't know that.
But if you're not allergic, then
if you are not allergic, and if you, again, it's not only about allergy, it's about that if it is inflammatory or not.
Right, that's what
yeah, because it can be not allergy, but just increasing inflammation, which it's not that easy to notice. We'll now talk about elimination diet. There are certain things. Yeah. Well, among animal proteins, probably the best alternative is fish. You remember we talked about fat, fish oil. Yeah, and now with animal proteins, again, fish is the best alternative probably. With proteins, again, corn-fed farm fish is not that good, like wild fish. And another thing, when you buy, I started also to pay attention to that, like where was that fish, even if it is wild fish, and even if it is farm fish, where was it caught? From which country does it come? The point is that many places, unfortunately, seas are polluted by chemical pollution. And fish which is caught in those areas, as you understand, will have some chemical pollution inside the body of the fish. All countries have different standards. For example, if it comes to Australia and New Zealand, I know those countries, they have much stricter standards about the chemical pollution of fish, so it is safer than America. They have better standards than America. Norway also has very good standards. So, but on another side, I see in supermarkets there's so much now fish coming from China, and I understand that even that salmon or anything, it is caught in either East Chinese Sea or South Chinese Sea, and those seas are among the worst chemically polluted seas in the world for obvious reason. China is a huge industrial hub, and also the pollution goes to rivers and to the sea. That fish, understandably, it is cheaper than Norwegian, but the standards of cleanness from chemicals in Chinese fish and Norwegian fish will be also different. Mexican is mostly coming from Pacific Ocean. It depends also where. Like most of Pacific Ocean are quite okay, though worse than Arctic Ocean. Arctic Ocean is much better, but in Pacific Ocean, for example, there is one huge area which is named Pacific Garbage Patch. As you know, like lots of plastic garbage floating in the middle of Pacific Ocean. I believe the territory bigger than Texas. Yeah, so if the fish was caught away from that plastic dump in the middle of ocean, that plastic dump in the middle of ocean is created by streams, like natural streams, which go through currents in the stream, and they kind of go in circle. There's corrosive, the passat currents, and yeah, it accumulates that garbage in one place. Huge place, actually. Yeah, so it depends. And the same with farm fish. Yeah, the different farms in different countries will have different standards of how they treat the fish. So it's complicated, as you see. Relatively okay, so much better than red meat, actually. Among all meat, probably the best is lamb, and the second probably comes goat. These are usually, first of all, there is no found connection between cancer incidence and this meat, lamb or goat. Though there was found cancer connection between cancer and red meat, meaning beef and pork. Yes, Lee, you were asking something?
Poultry?
Poultry is in the middle, mostly because most poultry, most chicken are fed with corn. They're farmed. If it is poultry wild or almost wild, that's the way how people used to do it 100 years ago, it should be okay. But most chicken now in America are fed with corn, and they're fed with lots of antibiotics, unfortunately. Actually, quarter or even more than quarter, I believe already, of all antibiotics produced in America goes to farms.
Those farms?
What? Yeah.
What about soy? Soy milk, soy products versus like
I will talk about. I was planning to talk about it in a different meeting, but soy products are actually okay. I will just warn males of consuming them on a regular basis, because soy does contain so-called phytoestrogens, which means plant molecules which molecule form resembles and works very much like estrogen, like woman hormone. And for guys, it's not the best thing. Yeah. So, and other things, like it's average. It's okay. I mean, it's okay. Probably it is worse, not probably, it is worse than lentils, for example, or chickpeas, or some other kinds of beans. It is worse. But, so.
So one last question on that, that's interesting. So that estrogen-like compound, is it also found in eggs, and if it's found in poultry meat, or not?
In meat or dairy products?
You can find it in meat, but you know.
If they were treated with hormones, then yes. Artificial hormones in eggs?
Yeah.
Yeah, if they treat chicken, and I believe they do often treat chicken with hormones, then it can be. But I believe it's usually not estrogen, it's some other hormones. I don't think that they work exactly like estrogen, but some hormonal, yes. That's why, in general, try to stay away from those meat and dairy, which is not completely antibiotic-free and hormone-free. Unfortunately, in our world, it's not that easy. And so regarding meat, I told the lamb and then goat, if it is antibiotic and hormone-free, is fine, relatively okay. And dairy products is the same. Sheep milk or goat milk is much healthier, and it's not that inflammatory as a cow milk. If you remember, I was saying that cow milk and all products of cow milk are inflammatory. Made of goat or sheep milk are not. That's why goat cheese or sheep cheese and yogurt made of goat milk or sheep milk will work much better. Again, should be free from antibiotics, hormones, and should be free from any sugars or additives, which brings us to the concept of original plain yogurt, which is Turkish, or so-called in America, I believe, Greek yogurt, which is plain without any additives, just fermented by bacteria milk. That's all. The old style. After we covered these main ingredients of our food, we can touch several components in our food which actually can be used to actively mitigate, reduce inflammation. How long time do we have, by the way?
We're good. We've gone 48 minutes.
Okay, we will finish soon. I will cover a couple more things and we'll finish. So there are certain ingredients which you can actually add into your food which reduces inflammation. Number one, so mostly of them are certain herbs and spices. Number one is turmeric. Turmeric, or curcuma, how it's named, contains curcumin, hence the name curcumin, because it's in curcuma or turmeric. That is yellow-colored root, which is usually ground and used in food, and it has very strong anti-inflammatory effect, to the extent that it is actually used as medication in many countries and throughout centuries in India and Central Asia. It was used as medication against certain inflammation processes of intestine, etc. Certain herbs are used. In general, we will touch it later. Almost all herbs are very beneficial for different reasons. Specifically against inflammation, we will work peppermint, melissa, rosemary, fennel, and anise. Those herbs are reducing inflammation inside.
Say that one more time.
Peppermint, melissa, rosemary, fennel, and anise. And also reducing inflammation, though you usually cannot eat too much of it, is ginger and garlic. They feel hard, but they actually have very different way of how they work, and they do reduce inflammation inside the intestine. Cardamom, which we already mentioned today, also is very good. Sorry?
Spell that. Cardamom.
Cardamom, C-A-R-D-A-M-O-M.
Thank you.
And we have that handout. We have all these there in handout. And aloe vera. Aloe vera also used as added to food, can work with reducing inflammation, and we'll mention it later, with repairing the leaky gut. Black pepper, unlike red pepper, is also reducing inflammation in intestine. Red pepper is actually controversial. There are studies which show that it is very bad in triggering inflammation. There are studies which show that in small quantities it can reduce. So it's complicated, let us tell so. When it comes to red pepper, it's complicated. Probably when it is used in very small quantities, so that it doesn't really make food hot yet.
You're not talking about chili peppers, are you?
All those peppers like cayenne, chili, like all those red peppers, they have the same common ingredient, capsaicin, which makes them hot. So very small amount of it is okay, and it can even reduce inflammation. But when it comes to higher amount, and chili pepper actually, I believe they contain much higher amounts than cayenne pepper, or especially Aleppo pepper. Aleppo pepper is quite mild. Yeah, so there are different kinds of them, but the higher concentration, whether it's like really hot food, spicy hot food, that is already not good for intestine. Unlike black pepper, interestingly, black pepper does reduce. So black pepper is completely different. It doesn't contain capsaicin, it contains pepperin. It's different chemical. It works in different way. Now, besides those things which are very generic and they work for everybody or almost everybody, there are certain kinds of individual food sensitivities or food allergies which are in different people. Actually, it is considered that around 20% of the population in the United States have some kind of food sensitivity, abnormal reaction to certain food. And they can be connected to autoimmune diseases, and the most frequent, again, you see the list and even the picture listing them in your handout, but the most frequent are nuts. Very good, very healthy food. Unfortunately, because of leaky gut, can cause allergies often. Nightshade vegetables, mostly tomatoes and eggplants, but peppers also. Dairy products of different kind, but again, as I told, sheep and goat milk is much softer on this than cow milk. So even if you have an allergic reaction to cow milk, probably you don't have it against goat and sheep. And eggs. So these are the four things which are most frequently causing inflammatory reaction in people. If you have that, you may want to stay away from that. In order to diagnose to which kind of food you have a reaction, on commercial basis, there are many tests available, so-called food panel tests, if you heard, like ELISA, etc. There are many kinds of them. They're pretty much all of them, they take your blood and check it for immunoglobulins G, I believe, against molecules in certain kinds of food. And then they tell you that, yeah, you have reaction against, I don't know, you have reaction against hazelnuts, but you don't have reaction against pistachios, which is actually a very frequent thing because people more frequently have reaction against walnuts and hazelnuts and pecans, but pistachios are much softer in case of allergies. For example, they tell you this, and people start adjusting their diet based on those food panel tests. Now the problem is, and that's why American Association of Allergic and Autoimmune Diseases, American Academy of Allergy, Asthma and Immunology, and the Canadian Society of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, those two organizations recently, not very recently, but yeah, they published warning to people to not follow those tests. Why? Because those tests, what they show, they just show that right now in your blood you have antibodies against those foods. Most probably because those are the foods which you eat now, and through leaky gut it comes into your blood flow, or those foods have molecules similar to molecules of food which you eat. So there's some similarity in molecules. So that's what you consume now. That's why you have reaction against that. You switch to other type of food, fine, but if your leaky gut problem is not addressed, after some time that other kind of food also will cause that immune reaction, and you have allergy against other food. So you have hazelnut sensitivity, you start eating pistachio, after half year or 1 year you have sensitivity to pistachio also. Why? Because the root cause, the leaky gut, etc., was not fixed. Those organizations do not refer specifically to leaky gut, but they emphasize that those tests really check almost nothing. They check just your current condition, and you can adjust your diet. I usually tell that, yeah, you can adjust your diet according to the results of that test. Or you can adjust your diet according to elimination diet process. When you remove many things from your food, you start eating from scratch, and you gradually introduce one product after another, gradually, and you observe how your organism reacts to that. You can, but that will be temporary solution. It will last several months, probably a year, but you need to fix other things. You need to fix leaky gut, lazy gut, and dysbacteriosis. You fix your microbiome. Otherwise, your inflammation will return back. So you need to fix all problems. Just removing certain kinds of food is not solution. And actually, if you fix everything, you can start eating almost everything, except junk. Yeah. Elimination diet, the whole concept is about you start eating from the less allergic thing, or you eat kind of like kale and avocado, and then you add one more ingredient to your food. And you look through several days. Those autoimmune, and unlike allergic reaction develops during several hours, autoimmune reaction develops during several days. So you look like, for example, 6 days. You add one ingredient to your food and you look 6 days. If you don't have any worsening of your condition, you are okay with that food. You can, after several days, add one more. And so on. You kind of add things, and you observe after every new ingredient, you observe, take 6 days for example, that you don't have worsening of your condition. If you got worsening of your condition, you checkpointed, okay, that's the thing which I shouldn't eat, X for example. Okay, I shouldn't eat X. You remove it again, you cleanse, you allow several more days to pass so that your body cleanses from all that, and then you continue, you add another thing. That's how elimination diet, you can, of course, the food panel test may help with it because it may already give you some hints so that you are not completely blind. But even without food panel test, you can, it will just probably take a longer time, but you can adjust your diet removing inflammatory foods this way through elimination diet. But again, just removing anti-inflammatory food is just one of components, and it doesn't solve the whole problem. So we will have to address other strategies next time. Thank you. Any last questions, please?
When she was little, we tested her for food allergies, and she was allergic to coffee and black pepper, which she'd never had. So how was that?
If she never had it, it is possible that allergies goes to some protein, mostly it is protein, which does exist in some other foods which she had. Meaning, two proteins in two different kinds of food can be either the same molecule or very near geometric form to each other. That's why allergic reaction against one of those molecules will mean allergic reaction to another molecule also. Meaning, some molecule, some protein, again, let's make it clear, some molecule, protein molecule in pepper or coffee may be very identical to molecule in, I don't know, in amaranth, for example. And she ate amaranth and she developed allergy to amaranth. That's why she has allergic now to coffee also, because those molecules look very similar to immune cells. And immune cells which reacts to this will react to that also. Again, I tell you about amaranth just like example. Of course, I don't know which one is that, but it is cross immune reaction from one to another.
You may address this in the future, but if not, maybe think about the elimination diet and fasting. What role can fasting play in repairing your gut?
We will address it later, but fasting is the most aggressive, in good sense, way of cleansing your body from those sources of sensitivity, yes, from those molecules. So in elimination diet, whenever you add something, for example, what I used, when I add some new food and I find that after several days, oh, I have a reaction, my condition worsened, I not just remove it, I take a couple days without food, just water, for example. I may take some oil additionally for energy. And so instead of waiting for 5-6 days, you literally can have 1 or 2 days of hunger, so it works much faster to cleanse your body. But regarding fasting, there is more about it. We will return to it when we will speak about leaky gut.